"Do you hear that?" whispered, her voice steady but tight. Commander didn't look up. "I hear everything, and that's the problem." The lights on the bridge flickered, once, twice, followed by a deep, humming tremor beneath the floor. A shiver crawled up everyone's spine, a silent warning none could name. Exhaled sharply, eyes narrowed at the star-streaked void beyond the viewport. It's like the universe itself is holding its breath. Finally turned toward her. "Then we better find out what it's waiting for." A moment of charged silence settled between them, heavy with fear neither dared mention. Something had awakened, something older than memory, older than language, and it was listening. Always walked with a measured swagger, the kind that came from living through things that should killed him twice. But right now, even he felt a cold weight pressing down on his chest. Something was wrong. They all sensed it. The battleship drifted near the quiet edge of the Orion frontier, a place usually filled with radio chatter, mining drones, and merchant ships humming along their routes. But today, silence. A flawless, horrifying silence. The crew watched the empty expanse with strained faces. Gripped the console, knuckles pale. Paced behind them, his breath short, muttering half-coherent analysis. Even the ship's AI, Sora, had dimmed her warm blue glow to a cold, analytical white. His voice cut through the tension. "Report." Sora replied instantly, tone clipped. "All long-range communications have ceased, not disrupted, ceased. No static, no interference, no natural explanation." Frowned, someone turned off the universe. Sora didn't answer. The absence of an explanation was explanation enough. Straightened, "All right, we do this the human way, stare into the unknown and make it blink first." His attempt at confidence steadied the team, if only slightly. A low vibration rolled through the again, deeper this time. The lights dimmed and returned, but the hum didn't fade. It grew. Outside the viewport, a ripple shimmered across the stars, like someone brushing a hand across an impossible canvas. The crew gasped, even stepped forward, jaw tightening. "What in the nine suns was that?" whispered. Before anyone could answer, a sharp tone cracked through the bridge, Sora's proximity warning. "Unidentified energy signature forming. Center point unidentified, shape undefined, behavior non-physical." Snapped her gaze to the readings. "Is it a ship?" "No." "A weapons?" "No." Glared, "Sora, give me something." "I lack a category. This phenomenon does not conform to physical law." Cursed under his breath. "Fantastic. We're staring at something the universe doesn't have a name for." A tense quiet lingered until the ripple thickened. A shape emerged from the distortion. It held no symmetry, no light, yet somehow glowed. It cast no shadow, yet swallowed every shadow around it. It was silent, but the crew felt its presence pressing against their skulls like a whisper without sound. Trembled, "Commander, it's looking at us." Kept his eyes locked forward. "Then we look right back." Another ripple flared, this one sharper, harsher, and suddenly every screen on the bridge filled with symbols. Strange, shifting symbols that twisted the mind to stare at too long. Recoiled, What language is that?" Sora answered, unusually slow. "I do not know. It contains structures that should not exist." The symbols rearranged, forming lines, then spirals, then breaking apart again before reforming into something that almost resembled words. Leaned in, heart pounding. Is it trying to communicate? Then, just for a moment, the symbols stilled. A single line remained. It pulsed once like a heartbeat, then twice. Then the screens went black. Whispered, "What did it say?" Sora projected the line into the air. The translation flickered, unstable, as though the message strained against the limits of human logic. Finally, one phrase appeared. "You are late." The words hung in the still air, chilling every spine. "Late for what?" murmured. The entity outside swelled, as if reacting to her voice. For the first time, sound reached them, a low, resonant echo that wasn't heard by ears but by something deeper. A pressure wave of intention, urgency, warning. Sora's lights flashed red. "Commander, energy buildup, catastrophic scale, source the entity." Size widened. Time to move, all power to shields now. But before any command could save them, a sudden shock ripped through the ship, brief but violent. The bridge darkened. Sparks burst from a console, fell to one knee, clutched his arm. The ripple outside collapsed inward, like an eye closing. And the universe's silence suddenly felt like the calm before a storm humanity wasn't ready to name. The bridge of there was a tangle of smoke, sparking consoles, and the low hum of unstable engines. Wiped soot from his brow, his jaw tight, and tried to force control over the chaos. "Status," he barked, voice sharp, cutting through the alarmed whispers. His hands shook as she activated the auxiliary display. Hull breaches, minor, shields at 50% and falling. That thing outside, energy readings off the charts. It's still out there, Commander. Exhaled, rubbing his temple. Figures. Nothing says welcome to the unknown like almost dying first. Crouched by a console, tapped furiously. It's not moving like a ship. It doesn't move at all. It's existence, pure existence, and it remembers. Froze, remembers what? Shook his head. I don't know, but I can feel it like a memory pressing on my skull, something ancient, something humanity forgot to prepare for. Silence fell heavy, broken only by the occasional pop of a damaged circuit. Sora's voice, calm but tense, broke it. Commander, the entity's energy fluctuations suggest a time-sensitive event. If we do not act, consequences could cascade across all nearby star systems within hours. Size narrowed. Hours, not days, not weeks, hours. His pulse raced. Then we don't have time for guesses. What do we do? Paced, mind working faster than his words. We do what humans do best. Analyze, adapt, and if all else fails, stand in the face of the impossible and make it blink first. His tone carried that swagger, a calm defiance in the eye of chaos. But even he felt a hollow pull of fear, the kind that whispers, this might be bigger than all of us. Sora interrupted. Commander, preliminary scans suggest the entity is seeking communication. Not with words, not with sound. It is reaching for thought patterns, logic, and intent. A bridge of consciousness, if you will. Swallowed hard, so we talk with it mentally. Apparently, muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. And we'd better be ready to make sense where no sense exists. The bridge lights dimmed again. Outside, the warped folding in on itself. Colors humans had no names for flared, and the entity's shape, always shifting, expanded, then contracted, pulsing with intent. Suddenly a voice, not a voice but a presence, slid into their minds. Calm, icy, patient. You speak. Staggered back. I didn't say anything. Gritted his teeth. Doesn't matter if we said it aloud, it hears the thinking. Everyone focus, don't let it see fear. You are late. The words echoed in his mind, not as language, but as a weight pressing on comprehension. Memory fragments, lost histories, future possibilities, they swirled together. Late, for what? Swallowed, it knows we should have been here sooner. It's not asking, it's accusing. His voice trembled. Then, what do we do now? Squared his shoulders. We do what humans always do when faced with something smarter, bigger, older than them. We survive. And then we talk. The entity pulsed again. A wave of raw energy rolled across the systems, blinked, alarms screamed, and yet the ship did not break apart. The crew realized we are being tested. Sora's projection flickered. Commander, if this entity is allowed to reach full resonance, it could rewrite physical laws in this sector. Entire civilizations could vanish, eras of existence deleted in moments. Clenched his fists. Then we make our case. Humanity doesn't surrender. Humanity doesn't beg. We make it understand why we exist. His eyes burned with determination, even if it means standing alone. His grin, sharp and fearless, returned. Especially if it means standing alone. The galaxy underestimates humans because they only look at the surface. They forget what we can do when our backs are against the wall. His hands hovered over his console, hesitant. We try to reach it with thought, direct connection, it might. Crush us, finished the thought. Maybe, said calmly. But maybe it won't. And maybe, just maybe, we're about to show it the one thing no other species has mastered, human ingenuity and spirit. The lights on the bridge dimmed once more, a ripple of color spreading across the viewport as if the stars themselves were bracing. The entity's presence thickened, waiting, watching, judging. Then, in a voice that echoed inside their very bones, it spoke again. "Prove it." His pulse quickened. "All right," he muttered. "Let's see if the day humanity's words fell short is the day we finally make them count." The bridge fell into tense, deliberate silence. Outside, the entity's impossible shape shimmered like molten glass, waiting for an answer that only humans could deliver. His hands hovered over the main console, the hum of failing systems a stark reminder of their fragility. The entity's presence had grown heavier, pressing against the crew's minds with every second. Every heartbeat felt like it was measured against a clock they didn't understand. Leaned close, voice barely above a whisper. "How do we even begin? Thoughts, intentions, ingenuity. How do you package that into something that can be seen by a thing that doesn't exist?" His eyes were sharp, burning with that familiar defiance. "We don't package it, we be it. Every calculation, every instinct, every spark of human brilliance, we show it. Let it feel who we are." Shook his head, unease etched across his face. "Commander, if it's probing our minds, it knows us. It knows everything we fear, every mistake, every weakness. One wrong thought and—" "We die," finished, her voice tight. "Exactly," said. His swagger returned, dangerous and magnetic. "So we don't think like victims, we think like humans. We fight with brains, guts, and heart. We own the moment." Sora's projection flickered. "Commander, preliminary Neuralink protocol is operational. If you attempt to interface directly, the entity could either respond or retaliate. Probability of survival, 50%. 50% is better than 0, said with grim humor. "Bring it online." The bridge went silent as the Neuralink harnesses activated. A subtle hum crawled along the crew's spines. Their thoughts tingled, vibrating in unison, as if the ship itself were becoming alive. Outside, the entity shimmered violently, pulsing with energy like a heartbeat waiting. Then, without warning, it reached. Not physically, not audibly, but felt it first, a probing presence slipping into his mind, twisting and sifting, examining every fragment of thought. Gasped beside him. Froze. The bridge was no longer a room, it was a shared consciousness stretched thin between human and unknown. Then it spoke, not with words, with meaning. "Why do you exist?" His mind raced. What could they say that would satisfy this godlike question? We survive, she thought. We explore, we create, we fall, we rise. His presence steadied hers. "You are human, you do not surrender." The entity recoiled slightly at the assertion, its energy flaring outward. Then another thought struck the crew all at once. It didn't just want words. It wanted proof of human essence, the spark that made them different, unpredictable, alive. Swallowed hard. "It's testing us. It doesn't respond to words. It responds to action, to ingenuity." Grinned, mind racing faster than ever. "Then let's show it." He leapt to the main console, overriding safety protocols. Sparks flew, warning sirens blaring. "I need you on auxiliary. Prepare the experimental pulse." His hands flew over the console, rerouting power from every secondary system. The ship groaned, metal creaking under strain. Outside, the entity pulsed in anticipation, as if it could feel every move, every calculation. His fingers danced across the controls. "We're not just fighting it, we're dancing with it. Predict the patterns, invert the logic, push beyond the limits. Show it what human minds can do." A surge of light exploded from the ship's core. The energy pulse shot outward, not to destroy, but to communicate. Patterns, spirals, and flashes of chaotic brilliance radiated from each one a deliberate testament to human creativity. The entity paused. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then it shifted, folding in on itself, reacting to the pulse. Its form shimmered, fracturing and recombining in ways the crew's minds strained to comprehend. Sora's voice, trembling for the first time, whispered, "Commander, it's understanding." Allowed himself a brief grin. Understanding isn't agreement, but it's a start. His breath came in sharp, shallow bursts. Can it accept us? Can it see value in us? Didn't answer with words. He just pressed harder, faster, feeding every ounce of human ingenuity into the pulse. The entity's shape convulsed, twisted, and then, like a glass struck just right, it shattered into millions of glimmering fragments that hung suspended in space around the... For the first time, a feeling beyond fear washed over the crew, respect, or perhaps curiosity. The entity pulsed one final time, softer this time, almost like a sigh. Then silence. But it wasn't the kind of silence that kills. It was a silence that waited, watched, and considered. Exhaled slowly. They're listening, and maybe they're learning we're not just another species to be dismissed. Looked at him, a spark of awe and exhaustion in her eyes. We made it blink first, didn't we? Allowed himself a slow nod. Yeah, for now, but whatever comes next, we have to be ready because they remember everything, and I don't think we've even scratched the surface. Outside, the entity's fragments shimmered like distant stars, each one a silent witness to the stubborn, relentless brilliance of humanity. The bridge was quiet, except for one thought shared by all: this was only the beginning. The drifted in a fragile calm, the entity's fragments still suspended outside like a constellation of judgment. The crew exhaled collectively, unaware that each breath carried the weight of 1,000 possibilities. Sank into her chair, head spinning. "We survived," she whispered, "for now." "Survival isn't a gift," said, voice low but steady. "It's earned, and I have a feeling this entity isn't done testing us." Rubbed his eyes, tense. "You mean it could strike again, or worse?" "Both," replied. His hands tapped the console rhythmically, like a heartbeat racing against the unknown. "And next time it won't just probe our minds. It'll dig into our fears, our instincts, our humanity itself." Sora's projection flickered, her tone unusually somber. "Commander, analysis suggests the entity's understanding of humans is evolving. It is curious, but curiosity in something this powerful is dangerous." Shivered, curious doesn't sound like a threat. His grin was grim. Curious is when a predator toys with its prey before the kill. Curiosity can be lethal when it's infinite and doesn't blink. The bridge lights dimmed again, not from damage, but from a presence. Outside, the entity's fragments began to rearrange, forming patterns that tugged at the crew's minds, images that were familiar, yet impossibly distorted. Faces of lost loved ones, memories from Earth, futures that had not happened. Every fragment a whisper meant to test reaction, resilience, and will. "Froze, it's showing us ourselves." "Not just us," said, voice tight. "It's showing humanity, every choice, every triumph, every failure, it's judging." Leaned forward, voice calm but firm. "Then we don't flinch. We've stared down death before, and we've stared down impossible odds. Humans don't crumble, we adapt." The fragments shifted again, faster now. A wave of emotion washed over the bridge, grief, regret, pride, rage, so vivid it threatened to tear the crew apart. Felt herself pulled toward memories she'd buried, choices she hadn't faced, paths she'd avoided. "Commander," she whispered, voice shaking. "It's testing more than our minds, it's testing our souls." His eyes locked on hers. "Then we show it what humanity is made of, not just cleverness, not just courage, but everything. Pain, hope, love, stubborn defiance, it's all part of us, and none of it is negotiable." His console beeped. "Commander, energy readings. The entity is focusing, all fragments converging toward a single point. If it completes this formation, whatever it is planning, it could wipe this system clean. Seconds less than 60. His pulse jumped, but his voice remained steady. "Then we make a human choice, not a calculated one, not a cautious one, the boldest choice we've got." Stared at him. "We can't fight it physically, not with shields or weapons." "No," admitted. "But we can fight it with us, with spirit, with presence, with proof that we are unpredictable, relentless, undeniable. That's our weapon." The fragments fused into a single, towering shape, a storm of impossible geometry that pulsed with energy and intent. The ship trembled, systems screaming in protest. The entity's pressure pressed against their minds like a tidal wave, probing every fear, every doubt. Gritted his teeth. "Now." The crew synchronized their focus, not as individuals but as humanity itself. Poured memories, instinct, and courage into the neural link. fed patterns, calculations, creativity, sent waves of defiance, unpredictability, and sheer human spirit. The entity reacted. Its shape pulsed violently, quaking like molten crystal. Fragments scattered then, trying to absorb the proof the humans had given. It wasn't an attack, it was comprehension. Sora's voice cut through the tension. "Commander, it is processing, reaction uncertain." Outside, the impossible geometry began to destabilize, cracking, twisting, then exploding into fragments that hovered like suspended light. The pressure lifted slightly, and for the first time the crew realized the entity had paused and its focus had softened. Exhaled, weakly smiling, we made it hesitate. Nodded, hesitation is all humans need. They count seconds, we count the spark, that's our edge. Always has been, always will be. Swallowed, relief and awe in his eyes. Do you think it understands us? His gaze lingered on the shimmering fragments outside. Not fully, not yet, but it's learning, and that's the point. Humanity doesn't need understanding to survive. We need resilience, we need spirit, and we have both in excess. His voice was quiet, reflective. And if it comes back? Then we do it again, said voice firm. And again, because that's what humans do. We don't wait, we stand, we fight, we live. That's our language, and it's the only one worth speaking. The fragments outside shimmered once more, then spread, drifting away like distant stars, leaving a silence heavier than before. But this time, layered with respect, curiosity, and an unspoken acknowledgement. The bridge exhaled. Humanity had survived, but the test had only begun. The drifted in the eerie quiet after the entity's pause, but the crew knew better than to call it safe. The stars beyond the viewport flickered strangely, as if reality itself had and now strained to return to normal. Stood at the bridge, arms crossed, mind racing. It's not gone, it's observing, it's calculating, and it's patient. That's worse than attacking. His fingers hovered over the console. Patient, meaning it's planning something bigger. Exactly, said jaw tight. And this time it won't just test our minds. It'll probe our choices, our morality, our humanity itself. His voice trembled. Commander, the neural link readings. Even after we disconnected, the entity's energy signature is imprinting itself onto the crew. It's like a shadow in the mind. His eyes widened. A shadow, you mean it's watching through us? Nodded slowly. Yes, and we need to be careful what we think. Every instinct, every doubt, every hesitation it could use against us. It's learning faster than we can adapt. The bridge lights dimmed again, casting elongated shadows across the crew's faces. Outside, the fragments of the entity shimmered, coalescing into patterns that resembled cities, mountains, and oceans, but distorted, impossible, and alive. The entity was no longer just observing, it was testing possibilities. Sora's voice was clipped, urgent. Commander, the entity is initiating temporal fluctuations. Time in this sector is being warped. Seconds may stretch into hours, and hours collapse into instants. Crew perception and reactions could be compromised. Eyes narrowed. Great, so it's not enough to be smart and bold. We have to think faster than time itself. Swallowed hard. Can we even do that? Grinned, dark and sharp. Humans don't do the impossible because it's easy. We do it because we have to, and right now we have to survive. A ripple of distortion ran through the bending light, sound, and even gravity. Crew members staggered as time's rhythm broke around them, felt seconds stretch painfully, like each heartbeat was a lifetime. Calculations raced frantically, trying to predict the entity's patterns, but each formula unraveled before it could stabilize. His voice cut through the chaos. Focus, not on fear, not on survival, on us. Every instinct, every memory, every decision, channel it. That's our anchor in this storm. Outside, the entity's fragments surged together, forming a colossal shape, a monolith of impossible angles and pulsing light. It projected visions into the crew's minds, the rise and fall of civilizations, stars collapsing, galaxies reshaping themselves. Every vision carried a question. Could humanity endure this? His hands shook. It's showing us what happens if we fail. No, corrected, voice fierce. It's showing us that it believes we might fail, and humans we don't fail, not if we refuse to. Whispered almost to himself, But it could erase entire systems, billions of lives. How do we fight that? His grin was sharp, almost dangerous. With the one thing it doesn't fully understand, human will, our spirit, the way we think, act, and defy, that's what's going to make it blink again. Sora's lights pulsed red. Commander, energy readings indicate the entity is beginning a concentrated pulse. If fully released, it could destabilize this entire sector. His jaw tightened. Then we don't wait, we act now. His pulse raced. Act how? We can't hit it with weapons, we can't reason with it. Leaned close, eyes burning. We show it us. Every instinct, every courage, every defiance. Combine everything human into a single expression of survival. We make it feel us. We make it see why humans are worth the risk. His voice broke through panic. And if it decides we're not? His grin was cruelly calm. Then we die like humans, we fight, we scream, we leave a mark. The crew braced themselves. Outside, the entity's monolith began to vibrate, projecting waves of incomprehensible energy. The stars themselves seemed to ripple, bending around its presence. His hands danced across the console. Synchronize with me, not with machines, with mind, spirit, heart. We're going to show it what humans are made of. One pulse, one defiance, one unbroken statement that says we exist and we refuse to fall. A surge of energy rippled through the ship. Outside, the entity shivered, its form fracturing, reforming, caught in the brilliance of humanity's collective will. Sparks flew across the bridge as systems overloaded. But the crew's focus never wavered. Every fear, every doubt, every hesitation had been transformed into raw determination. And then, for a single, impossible instant, the entity paused. Time stilled, and the battered, trembling, and alive, held its ground against a force older than memory itself. They groaned under the strain of impossible energy ripples. Lights flickered, consoles sparked, and the stars outside bent like molten metal. Time itself warped around the ship, stretching seconds into minutes and collapsing hours into instants. Gripped the armrest of her chair, teeth clenched, as visions assaulted her mind. Cities burning, oceans boiling, people she'd never met screaming in distant worlds. Every vision carried a question. Are you ready to survive? Can humanity endure? His voice cut through the chaos. Focus, not on fear, on us. Every instinct, every memory, every defiance feed it into the link. We are more than calculations. We are human. We survive. His hands flew across the Neuralink console, recalibrating pulses to synchronize thought, emotion, and will. It's probing deeper now. It's not just testing intellect, it's testing essence. Every flaw, every hesitation, it's measuring it against something. His voice trembled. Measuring what? Us, said grimly. Every human impulse, every spark of spirit, and if we falter, it might decide we aren't worth the risk. The entity's monolith pulsed violently, sending shockwaves of energy that twisted the very fabric of reality. The stars outside stretched, then snapped back, as if the universe itself were gasping. Sora's voice cut in urgent. Commander, the entity's energy is reaching a critical threshold. If released fully, it could erase this sector in seconds. Probability of survival, 20%. His jaw tightened. 20% is still breathing, still thinking. That's more than zero. His eyes widened. But it's infinite. How can we outthink infinity? His grin was sharp, fearless. We don't outthink it, we it. We act in ways no algorithm, no physics, no logic can predict. That's our edge. And we've got one shot. The bridge shuddered again as a wave of energy rippled across the ship. Felt her mind stretched, pulled into impossible calculations, endless questions, and visions of failure. But's presence steadied her, a silent anchor. Now, he shouted, all of us. Focus everything human into one pulse. Thought, spirit, courage, defiance, everything that makes us impossible to erase. The crew synchronized through the neural link, feeding raw humanity into a single, coherent surge. His memories of hope and fear, love and loss, courage and stubborn defiance flowed outward. His calculated brilliance merged with raw instinct, poured pure determination into the pulse. Outside, the entity's monolith wavered, fracturing and reforming, reacting to each surge. The impossible geometry twisted, struggled, and shimmered under the weight of human intent. It was not just comprehension, it was confrontation. Sparks flew across the bridge as systems overloaded. Vision blurred, but she kept pouring herself into the pulse, feeling every heartbeat, every instinct of every human who had ever lived or struggled, as if she were the vessel for all humanity. The entity recoiled slightly, its fragments vibrating violently. For the first time it faltered, unsure, grinned through grit and sweat. That's it, let it feel us, let it see what humans are. The pulse expanded outward from a brilliant, chaotic wave of thought and spirit. The entity twisted, convulsed, then shimmered, folding in on itself. Its energy fractured into countless shards, reflecting every color, every possibility of existence. Gasped, it had stopped. Swallowed hard, it's watching, waiting, or learning. Its gaze never left the viewport. Not fully, not yet, but it's paused. That hesitation is enough. Humanity doesn't need to be understood to survive. We just need to be relentless, unpredictable, unbroken. The fragments drifted, suspended in space like a constellation of impossible stars. Time returned to but the echo of the entity's presence lingered, like a shadow in the back of the mind. Exhaled, voice soft but awestruck. We made it hesitate, we made it respect something about us. Nodded slowly, darkly confident. Not respect, not yet, but recognition, curiosity, and that's the door. The rest we have to open ourselves. Sora's lights dimmed, then stabilized. Commander energy levels normalized, Neuralink strain with intolerances, crew status operational but exhausted, psychological impact significant but survivable. Grin returned, grim and unwavering. Good, because the universe isn't going to wait for us to catch our breath, and neither will it. Looked out at the fragments, their impossible geometry glimmering. Do you think it will come back? His eyes narrowed, studying the distant shapes. It will, and next time we'll be ready, not just to survive, but to prove what humanity means to any being that thinks it can measure us. For the first time in hours, the bridge exhaled. Humanity had faced a force older than memory, a being that transcended thought and law and survived. Not by weapon, not by negotiation, but by spirit, ingenuity, and defiance. And somewhere beyond comprehension, the entity waited, fractured but aware, curious and cautious, and very much intrigued by the species that refused to bow. The crew knew one truth: survival was not the end, it was only the beginning. Silence had returned to but it was the kind of silence that felt like the calm before a storm. Outside, the fragments of the entity lingered, suspended like shattered stars, glittering with a strange, impossible intelligence. The crew stared at them, each mind still humming with the aftereffects of what had transpired. Broke the quiet, voice low but sharp. They didn't leave because they're done, they left because they're thinking, learning, judging, and if we falter now, they won't hesitate next time. His eyes narrowed, hands gripping the console. Next time, what if we're not fast enough? What if we fail? His grin, sharp and unwavering, cut through her doubt. Then we fail like humans, but humans, we don't just survive, we leave a mark, we adapt, we improvise, and we make the impossible impossible for anything else to predict. Shook his head, awe and exhaustion in equal measure. We've proven resilience, ingenuity, spirit, but it feels like they're testing more than that. It's not enough to survive, they want to see who we truly are. Sora's voice, calm but tinged with unease, confirmed the thought. Commander, the entity's fragments are forming a pattern. I interpret it as a trial, not destruction but comprehension. A challenge. His gaze hardened. Then we accept it. Humanity has never faced the impossible and backed down. We will answer, not with words, but with action, intent, and heart. That's our language, and it's the one they'll never fully understand. The monolith formed again, towering and shifting, sending waves of energy that rippled across the ship. This time, however, it wasn't probing, it was testing. Each fragment projected visions directly into the crew's minds, the rise and fall of species, civilizations swallowed whole, stars collapsing into nothingness. And then Earth. Froze at the vision. Cities she knew, landscapes she loved, all imperiled. and at the center a faint pulse of humanity's collective resilience. The entity wanted to know, could humans preserve their essence against the unimaginable? Stepped forward. It's not just a question of survival, it's a test of us. Every flaw, every triumph, every stubborn instinct, that's what they're measuring. Swallowed hard. So we show them who we are, all of it, every spark that makes humans human. His hands flew across the consoles, connecting the neural link to every remaining energy reserve. We do more than survive. We act. We show them our unpredictability, our courage, our spirit. Every decision, every instinct, they will feel it. And they will know humanity cannot be measured, cannot be contained, cannot be erased. The crew braced themselves, poured every memory, every instinct, every pulse of human experience into the neural link. Calculated patterns that bent logic itself, feeding them into the ship's systems. Transmitted sheer will and defiance. Outside, the entity pulsed violently. The monolith wavered, twisted, and then, like a prism shattered and reformed, it reflected a spectrum of human essence. Determination, ingenuity, love, stubbornness, and hope. The crew held their focus. The entity reacted not with attack but with comprehension. Its fragments vibrated, then rotated, then stabilized, calm, almost reverent. Time itself seemed to slow, bending around holding its breath. Exhaled, voice trembling, they see us. Sgrin returned, fierce and victorious. They do, and they know one thing, humans refuse to fall. The monolith finally dissolved, the fragments scattering across the void. The stars returned to their normal rhythm. Outside, the entity lingered briefly, like a sentinel, and then vanished, leaving silence, yes, but this time layered with respect and recognition. Sora's voice softened. Commander, the entity has withdrawn. Probability of immediate threat, negligible. Psychological and physiological strain, high but manageable. Leaned back, eyes fixed on the stars. It wasn't a victory in the conventional sense. We didn't destroy it. We didn't reason it into retreat. We showed it something no one else could, human spirit. And that changes everything. His lips curved into a faint smile. Even in the face of incomprehensible power, we stood. We spoke in the only language that mattered. Defiance, ingenuity, courage, said quietly. Those are our words, and the universe just learned them. Let out a long breath, and if they return... His grin widened, calm and unstoppable. Then we'll speak them louder, smarter, fiercer, because humanity doesn't hide, humanity doesn't bow, humanity endures. Outside, the void was quiet again. But the crew of the New One Truth, somewhere out there, a consciousness older than memory had been shaken by humanity's pulse. And it had learned something invaluable, that the species that refuses to be understood is the one that cannot be controlled. The bridge exhaled, exhausted, battered, and alive. Humanity's words had almost failed. Yet in that failure they had discovered a power no entity, no matter how vast, ancient, or incomprehensible, could fully measure. The unyielding, unpredictable, indomitable spirit of humankind. And somewhere beyond comprehension, the universe itself seemed to pause, and perhaps to watch with something like awe.